We're on Pesachim, Perek Dalid, Mishnah Chet, 8th Mishnah in the 4th chapter of Masechet Pesachim. So the Mishnah here is going to list Shisha Dvarim Asu Anshe Yericho. 6 things, these are a list of 6 things that the people of Yericho did. They had customs. Al Shlosha Michu Biyadam, Val Shlosha Lo Michu Biyadam. 3 of them, the Chacham were Michu Biyadam, the Chachamim protested against them. And 3 of them, no bichu b'yam, 3 things the Chachamim did not protest. Now, the reason why we list these 6 things is because the first one we're going to see has to do with Erev Pesach. But what's interesting to me is that in all 6 the Chachamim didn't like. But you have to decide, every rabbi, every leader has to decide, when am I going to make a stink and when am I not going to make a stink? So it's interesting that all of these 6 things, even though that the Anshe Yericho did, Chachamim, they didn't love them. Only 3 al shlosha michu biyadam, al shlosha lo michu biyadam. The 3 they said, okay, whatever. Ve'elhem shalom michu biyadam. These are the ones that shalom michu biyadam. They did not protest. They didn't make a stink. Markivin dekalim kol hayom. This is the first one that has to do with Erev Pesach. Harkava means to graft dekalim. Dekyal is palm trees. And if you've ever been to Yericho, you know that's the Jordan Valley. That's where they grow these beautiful palm trees. And that was the time. That was exactly the time that they had to do the grafting. They would graft the Kahati says, they would graft a male onto a female, whichever, in order to grow it properly. And the Kahati knows that if they would miss it by a day, then that could cause them great loss. So they would makivin dikalim all day, kol yom, even though we learned it's asur, it's prohibited to do malacha on Erev Pesach. They did their hakava, they did grafting, and the Chachamim lo michu biyadam. The Chachamim didn't make us think about it. The korchin et shema. The korch et shema is interesting. It means that they would run through shema. The korech means to wrap up, but they would say shema quickly. It's different opinions. Bartuner says, shlo ayu omrim beit baruch shem kavod malchuto leolam va'ed. Either they wouldn't say baruch shem, or perush acher, shlo haya mafsikim bein echad le'ahavta. They wouldn't stop shem echad ve'ahavta. You have to say echad, whatever. It's interesting. There's a few different opinions of what it means, but la'arich be'echad, to extend your echad. Ulahafsik bein malchut shamayim lidvarim acherim, to make a hefsek, to interrupt, because the first pasuk is called Kabbalat o malchut shamayim. So they would rush through Shema somehow. V'kotzrim v'godshim lifnei ha'omer. We know the Omer is the korban ha'omer that was brought on the 2nd day of Pesach. And before you eat the korban ha'omer was brought, it was prohibited, a chadash, any new grain was prohibited. So Chachamim said that while you were allowed to be kotzer, you could cut down your harvest before the omer. Nonetheless, you were not allowed to be godesh. Godesh is from gedisha, it means to make a pile, to gather it all together. Now it has to be, there was a unique halacha. Normally you're not allowed to do any ketzira or gedisha at all. But they lived, remember, in the Jordan Valley. It never rains there. So therefore, all of their fields were watered fields. And in their times, any watered fields, the stuff didn't grow properly. It didn't grow as well because they simply didn't have enough water. To water something by hand was very time-consuming. They did it, but the produce wasn't so great. So Chachamim said you could be kotzer, but you can't be godesh. And the people of Yericho, even before the Omer came, they did ktsira and gedisha. They brought it into piles before the Omer, and the Chachamim say you shouldn't do that because if you bring it into piles, then people are going to use it, and it's asur min haTorah. But they did it anyway. V'lo michu biyadam. Chachamim lo michu biyadam. They didn't protest. They didn't make us think about it. What did they do that they did make us think about? Ve'elu shem michu biyadam. What did they do? Matirin gimziyot shel hegdish. Gimziyot. That's a very interesting word. Let's see the Bar Tutor for a second. Gimziyot matirim lechol gimziyot shel hegdish. What are gimziyot? Gidulim shegalu be'ilan shel hegdish. They had trees and they made them into hegdesh. So that the gidulim, the shoots and the leaves, the offshoots, they would eat them. Or for example, if they would have heart of palm or whatever, they would eat the heart of palm. The kasavre, they held, ein isur ela hapri atzmo shehukdash. Only the fruit is asur. Not only the fruit, not the tree, because the Kahati says what happened when people would come and steal the trees, or they would cut down their trees. So they said, okay, we'll make it hegdesh. But they only made it hegdish in order to get people. It's interesting. Even thieves didn't want to touch their hegdish in order to get people away. So they said, okay, the fruit is hegdish, but not the leaves themselves, not the shoots or whatever. Some say matzir Matzir means to cut. Kolomar chotchim kotfim anfei ilanot shel hekdesh. They cut off the branches of hekdesh, okay, to have hana. So that they're not allowed to do. The chachamim were michu biyadam. The next thing they did, ochlim mitachat hanisharim b'Shabbat. Nishar is that which falls off the tree. So they would be they would go around on Shabbat and they would see, dates fell, and they would eat the date. The problem is, if the dates fell before Shabbat, no problem. But if the date fell on Shabbat, it's muktzah, it's not mukhan. So, but they didn't care. They ate under the trees on Shabbat anyway. Chum didn't like that because it could be muktzah. Finally, v'notnim pe'ah le'yarak. They would leave pe'ah from yarak, from vegetables or vegetation. Things that were not storable, like tomatoes or cucumbers or what have you, even though it's not chayav in pe'ah. So you say, what's the matter with that? The problem is, when you give pe'ah, then it's patur ma'asrot. So if I designate the corner of my field of tomatoes as pe'ah, the aniyim come and they take it, they eat it without being mafrish shumot and ma'asrot. But if there is no pe'ah halachically, it's not pe'ah, it's chayav in shumot and ma'asrot. Therefore, michu biyadam chachamim. Chachamim didn't like that. They said to them, stop doing that, because you're causing people to eat Trumot and Ma'asrot. To eat Trumot and Ma'asrot that they're not allowed to, and that's an Isur Torah. We'll stop here and dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman, and you can email me at arspolter@gmail.com. Have a great day.